I'm Dorothy Rowe, and the video you're about to watch is a clip from a live webinar. If you enjoy the content of this video, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. Thank you. As we dive into this healing session, to engage finest discrimination in the digestive process, because you have the right to reject certain foods. You have the right. And it's all about efficiency, and it's all about the discrimination is based on a measure. And the measure is how valuable or useful for the evolutionary process is this. And not just how valuable and useful is it for my personal evolutionary process, but how valuable and useful is this experience or this food or this element in the food. Like maybe you need iron, but maybe you don't need a lot of iron. Maybe you need some iron, right? So it's like discriminating. For the evolution of the soul of the universe through this instrument. Because this is the big story that's going down. The big story is being one source of creation. In my beautiful picture back here, this is the source of creation. That's what's evolving. And so when we say that is evolving, what we mean is that source of creation has created this entire spectrum of manifestation, and its evolution is a process of becoming ever more integrated into the manifest spectrum of creation. There's a relationship that's going on there. It's a self-referral relationship because all of this is happening within the field of wholeness, within the field of the source of creation. It's folding in its own nature. Its own internal folds give rise to the manifest creation. It then integrates with the manifest creation deeper and deeper and deeper, more completely, more perfectly, more absolutely. That's the evolutionary process. So the question is, which particles in the food, or which foods, whichever level you want it, are contributing to that? Which foods are contributing to that? What energies are in the food? The point is that food exists in a gross material form, and food exists in a subtle form. Everything does. Everything that exists from down here at this level through the manifest spectrum. Now, not everything comes up to the full physical manifest. Some, but the food we eat does. The food we eat, if we eat food, we're eating something that's physical. Oh, here, I've got some water. Oh, no, I'm all empty. Anyway, sorry, no examples. But you get the idea that some forms of expression stay down here at the subtle level. They come out of the field of being and they just are like this. They're just folding back into being like that. But the food we eat, like our bodies, comes all the way up to the material level of creation. That means that the path that wholeness has to take to integrate with the food is more involved, because it goes all the way through the entire spectrum of the manifest field, all the way into the food. So there's a lot to be said about how food is prepared, how it's grown, how it's prepared, like what it takes to make a certain kind of food. I'm not going to tell you what to eat. You know, I have I have my own prejudices around food, and I feel that there are energies in the food. There are energies that are based on how it is grown and prepared. And in my opinion, every step of that process should be very pure. Purest, highest quality. It should be no step in that process should create suffering or pain for anybody, for example. That's my personal opinion. It's not to say that it's wrong, because who's to say how much a plant suffers if you harvest it? It's not to say that it's wrong, because as a species, we have evolved through centuries, eating a fairly wide variety and selection of different types of foods. And so our bodies are designed to handle different types of foods. And if there's some step in the growing and preparation process that gives rise to a food, and therefore some, we could say, destructive laws of nature that become part of that food, then what it means is we become adept at dealing with destructive laws of nature, right? Because if you can digest something, if you can digest a food that involves some kind of destructive act, then you are able to handle the destructive flow of creation in a way which is evolutionary, right? And we talked about this before, that the wholeness of creation has to necessarily break into parts in order for the manifest field to create. So that means when we say break into parts, we're talking about destructive laws of nature. So it's not to say that it's bad or wrong to eat food that has some element like that in it. It's just to say that we have to be very discriminating. So that's what we're doing. Discrimination is increasing. And how does discrimination increase? Discrimination is a value or quality that resides at the finest level. I'm using the word causal body to describe this very fine level of the physiology. And that fine level of the physiology has particular areas that are responsible for various features and qualities of our being, such as discrimination. So there's like a whole region of the causal body that's responsible for discrimination. And that region of the causal body reaches all the way up into the mental body. It reaches all the way up. Really, I'd say it reaches all the way up to the physical, because the physical body is also discriminating when it comes to digesting food. But we really experience it in a very, very intimate way in the mental body. The intellect. The nature of the intellect is to discriminate. So there's this region of your own consciousness which is responsible for the essence of discrimination, for the very structure of discrimination as a feature of your consciousness. So allowing awareness to dive into that area. As awareness dives into that area, it activates or awakens those laws of nature. With respect and reverence, these laws of nature are able to fold back into the ocean of being. As these laws of nature start looping into the ocean of being, they are purified and enhanced and nourished by the infinite resource of the source of creation. Discrimination is folding in on its own nature in order to optimize. Oh, I used discrimination, what word I chose, right? It becomes a holistic experience. It becomes a direct experience. I'm also noticing that the reverence and, I would say, gratitude and appreciation kicked off that refinement of discrimination. So the heart is also involved. But the heart's production of reverence and gratitude is governed by laws of nature that are also discriminating. We're selecting and choosing to bring the reverence to a very specific area of the causal body. As that happens, the nature of discrimination starts to rise up from this deep gap area between the unmanifest and the manifest. And as it rises up, it becomes imbued with the flow of nature's intelligence, all the laws of nature that push structure from the unmanifest, unstructured level of creation through to this level of extreme structure at the surface. I'm getting a validation from nature. I don't know if you can hear it through my microphone. But just as we're doing this healing, the most exquisite bird has just landed outside my window, and it has a very complex call. Oh yeah, we have the bird lovers, absolutely. Um, and it's like the bird is speaking. I was actually hearing earlier in my meditation, or this morning, maybe in my meditation, it must have been the same bird, whose language is so complex. It must have over at least 100 different sounds that it makes. And so this, oh, it's finished. There, it's done. Just during the healing. Just during the healing, it came, and it was like speaking outside the window. Nature. Nature expressing natural law through the universal language of perception and experience. So perception and experience are vital players in the process of digestion. Part of the story of having healthy digestion is a story of having discriminating perception and experience, discrimination in the field of perception and experience. We don't need to perceive absolutely everything. We don't need to experience absolutely everything. It's enough if the mother says, don't put your hand on the stove because you could get burned and that would hurt. It's enough. One doesn't have to put the hand on the stove, right? It's enough. So what we're looking for in our food is food that contains those fundamental impulses of intelligence that most optimally support the integration of divinity in the material field of the physiology, the material body. That's what we're looking for. And that could be different for each person because every one of us has a slightly different path of evolution. Maybe one person is intended to be in a very nurturing role in this world, and someone else is intended to be in a very intellectual role in this world, and so forth. Maybe someone is going to be in a very physical role. If you're a construction worker, your diet will be different than if you are, or a nurse, or a waitress who's on their feet all day, than if you are an intellectual working in a university, or a computer programmer who's sitting quietly in front of their computer all day. Discrimination is now combining with Dharma. Both, all the layers and types of Dharma. You can look on my website under the word Dharma on the knowledge base and find descriptions of the different types of Dharma. One of them is occupational, though, because we each have a job, we have a contribution that we make to our world. Okay. I'm just feeling the last flopping of the wave of that marriage between discrimination and Dharma. What that does is it infuses your discriminating process with an awareness of what sustains the universe, because that's what Dharma does. Very powerful, very beautiful, very efficient. I'm so impressed with you guys. This is such an efficient way to modify discrimination. It's not about, I have to know every nuance of how the unmanifest manifests the creation. No, we just bring Dharma and discrimination together and bam, then discrimination will automatically, kind of spontaneously be aligned with the highest sustaining power of creation. It's exquisite. Well done, everyone.